The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining today. My name's Stefan. I'm the PSM here for NVIDIA Grid. I'm sorry, for PNY. We're going to be talking today about VDI, especially around Windows 10. CMS has recently started working with PNY, so we've got Simon on board, and he's going to be talking about how GPUs are really going to help with the workloads for these new VDI environments, and how you use NVIDIA Grid on top of the GPUs within the servers to be able to do that. So hopefully you find today helpful. If you need anything after, then obviously come to us or your account managers, and we'll be able to help. But what I'll do now is hand over to Simon, who will take you through what's going on. Simon, over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the call today. Really appreciate your time. My name is Simon Horton. I'm the Northern European and AI specialist for PNY Europe. For those that are maybe not familiar with PNY, we are the technology partner for NVIDIA. So we're here to take the solutions into the market and ultimately address yourselves and give you the confidence to be able to take these solutions to the end customers. Right, we'll start the presentation. The theme for today is based around Windows 10 migration, which is very topical at the moment with Windows 7 support ending, as I'm sure a lot of you will be aware of. So the main things that we want to look at is essentially what is driving Windows 10 migration and why there's a concern for your customers. What is a GPU VDI enabled environment? The reasons why Windows 10 needs a GPU, a couple of examples, and then we'll try and wrap it up. So we'll try and keep it pretty straightforward today. So as many of you are probably aware of, Windows 7 has become unsupported by Microsoft. We've been aware of this for quite a while, and generally speaking, a lot of the corporate environment have been aware of this for the last sort of couple of years. The migration to Windows 10 for some people started, maybe 2 years ago, or the considerations around the platform. Some other companies are working on this later, and basically as we sit today now, Windows 7 is at the end of its service, and so people that are after supported platforms for security are definitely now moving to Windows 10. So some people will try and coincide this with their general refresh cycle on the hardware and software. Some of these clients will be on existing VDI solutions, which is easier for them if they're already used to working in a VDI environment through Citrix or VMware. We have people that are looking at new VDI deployments. So these are people that are just getting going with the solutions, maybe looking for guidance and which way to be looking at their solutions and what they need to consider. And then we have the people that are looking for better security, better device management, new features. People that are as a trend towards bring your own device, people taking on remote workers, these kind of aspects where it needs to be considered. So the general trends for business, Windows 10 is the #1 priority for a lot of us at the moment. This is the most topical reason. As probably a lot of you are aware, we're running on higher resolution screens now. 4K screens is the norm. A lot of the applications that we're running are becoming more and more visually intensive. That includes the operating system itself, which I'll cover off a little bit later. But a lot of the Office applications, even PowerPoint, is now becoming more GPU enabled. So it doesn't have to be the high-end designers and engineers that are using GPU accelerated applications. It could be regular office workers, things like YouTube, Google Earth, Google Maps. These kind of applications are all GPU accelerated. We're seeing a trend towards a lot of multimedia usage for training for employees. That can be in-house or remote. So if your business has a new starter in the business and you're delivering training via video, via Skype or via YouTube training sessions or whatever it will be, again, these are all super painful for a VDI deployment. And we also have users that are looking at using virtual reality in the future. But again, this is probably, we'll try and keep it quite basic today in the conversation. Just be aware that these kind of topics are coming along pretty quickly for us. So the three main factors that are contributing towards the VDI market at the moment: flexible workplace and business agility. Being able to have remote workers is becoming pretty common in virtually every business nowadays, and being able to take on board and spin up new virtual machines for new workers, new contractors, whatever it will be, as businesses are expanding or declining, whichever it will be, being able to have the right amount of users in the right kind of environment on the same platform. This could be the same for education, having the same virtual machines running for all the students on the campus. That way they're all on the same unified architecture and platforms, regardless of the actual device they're using. Security and risk management is a big concern for a lot of our clients. Security, particularly for defense sector, for financial, where you have people coming onto site, working on the applications. If you can run that in a virtual environment, the users can see the data and work with the data. There's no risk to the business of the users actually being able to take the data with them. And there's a reduction in the capital expenditure and the operating expenditure of businesses by running in a virtual environment. This would mean that people need to buy less physical machines, or you can run a lower standard of physical device, but running as a virtual environment, which can run very high performance. We also see a lot of policies around the corporate clients that may be using virtual environments across multiple different geographical locations. Some businesses run with a shifting with the sun policy, so the same hardware that's used in the UK during the day could, as the business day finishes in the UK, we might find that colleagues in the US are using the same hardware. So how it works. So we're going to talk about NVIDIA Grid licenses. Grid is a name of a piece of software that sits in a hypervisor. Again, predominantly VMware or Citrix, so the hypervisors are supported, but I'm going to use these two as the primary examples today, so the most common ones we'll come across. At the moment, what currently happens on a CPU-led server, so your traditional tier 1 solutions, the applications such as Microsoft Office or YouTube or whatever it will be, communicates to the hypervisor. The hypervisor allocates a certain amount of CPU, GPU resource, manages the requirement, passes it through to the server to be able to do the workflow, and then passes it back up through the stack to the end user. And it's doing this across multiple users multiple times every second. So there's quite a pull on the CPU requirements on the server, along with the spinning disks and SSDs and memory requirements. What happens with the GPU enabled server running NVIDIA Grid? Think of the hypervisor. Essentially, the signal gets intercepted at this point. The actual physical graphics driver sits within the hypervisor. So the applications see the hypervisor as if it would be running on a physical desktop with a physical graphics card in there. This is really key for when we're talking to clients that are running more graphically intensive applications such as SolidWorks or AutoCAD or Photoshop that will utilize the GPU driver on there and will enable and disable certain features of the application. Essentially, what the hypervisor does with the Grid license here, intercepts the workflow, passes off anything that is GPU related over to the graphics card on the server, and passes the rest through to the CPU workload on the server. And then once the two items have done their work, which is happening obviously in fractions of a second. It's pulled back into the hypervisor, put back together, and passed back through to the user's desktop. And this is happening across multiple iterations every single second. So we split our customer base into two pretty clear camps. We have the knowledge worker, which is the regular desktop operator. This makes for a large percentage of our regular customers out there. These will be using Microsoft Office, things like Photoshop, like I say, a lot of web accelerate applications, bit of basic video applications, things that people are using to be productive during their general business day. A lot of these users are now using multiple screens, higher resolutions as well. Then we have the creatives and the technical guys, the professionals that are using the very intensive applications, some that you're seeing here on the screen. So a great example with AutoCAD and SolidWorks. Revit will be a pretty common one for a lot of our architectural customers. These guys are really looking for the Quadro driver stack, which I'll come into later. Higher amounts of memory on the virtual machines in terms of GPU memory. They're looking for higher performance GPUs in here, and they'll be running typically at a higher resolution, maybe 4K resolution or above. So we have, like I say, we have two very, very clear user bases. So within here, we tend to, once we know what our end customer is doing as a business, bear in mind that even our architectural customers will have regular office workers in there, working in procurement teams or general administration. So you can't just give all the users one particular type of license. A business might have a mixture of different licenses, and these will tend to be mixed in different virtual environments with different virtual GPUs that you can run multiple virtual machines with different profiles at any one end user. So generally speaking, if we're running something like a virtual PC environment, which is the majority of our customer base, we would tend to recommend running something like an M10, Tesla M10, or Tesla M40. Tesla is the name that we give to our server class of GPUs. So these cards are designed to sit in data center environments in certified GPU servers. So they will typically be your tier ones or a high density GPU server from someone like ourselves. And we have different Teslas designed to do different tasks. So something like an M10 is a multiple GPU card that has 4 physical GPUs on 1 physical card, but the performance expectations is lower. This will be used for high density, but a low performance expectation of users. Something like the T4 is a lower end card in terms of the Teslas we manufacture, but again, this would tend to retrofit into a lot of existing GPU servers. So really good for retrofit business. No additional power supplies required. Really good for hyperscaling as well. So these would be what we would tend to recommend for our regular office worker environments. If we were to go to NVIDIA Quadro virtual data center workstations, it's quite a mouthful. Sometimes just referred to as Quadro VDWS. These cards tend to be much more high performance. So they would be P40, P100. We also have a V100, right to the very high end for the people that are doing mixed workflow, including high performance compute. And also the T4 sits into this spot as well, because you can run fewer users but a higher performance version of the T4, which I'll come into a little bit later on. So why does Windows need accelerated graphics? So I think it's pretty clear to see when you see the different versions of the Windows operating system side by side, something that most people very rarely will ever see. The expectation is that the Windows 10 requires 30% more CPU utilization than Windows 7, which is quite a heavy uplift for existing infrastructure. So what we're trying to say is if you were running an existing VDI solution, and you literally just change the OS from running Windows 7 to Windows 10, you have a 30% increase in the requirements from the CPU, which would throw more performance out of the CPU. In reality, what that will require is less user density on that same platform to maintain the same expectation from the user experience. So we're not actually taking a step forward, even though the operating system is more advanced. Actually, your usage of users per server will actually decrease to be able to just maintain where you are. Then when we start to look at the applications that are also involved here, this is quite a shock for a lot of people. Using Google Chrome, we have a lot of web-based GPU accelerated pages. Things like Outlook is also now becoming GPU enabled. Skype is pretty obvious, as is PowerPoint for the transition and the animations. Again, a lot of these applications in a virtual environment are pretty painful to run for a lot of users. So we'll just quickly touch into investment protection for basically what this means as a business. So essentially what we're seeing now is that basically the amount of applications that are out there in the market has more than doubled since 2012. That is a substantial amount of applications. We would say that we have over 200 plus certified applications that we are working for that are common in most people's workflows. Over half of all enterprise users use at least one graphics accelerated application in their day-to-day workflow, and 85% of the enterprise businesses that are out there will have started Windows 10 deployments by the end of 2017, and obviously now we're into 2020. This has become really, really key because a lot of these people are not yet migrated fully onto GPU accelerated applications. So multimedia and the way it's being deployed is also changing. As I mentioned earlier, back in the early days, even applications like YouTube, which we all use every single day on all our devices, a lot of it was used purely for social media, whereas now actually a lot of these are being used within businesses to create adverts, to create marketing, to deploy training, these kind of examples. And again, being able to keep these kind of creatives and these kind of users being in a productive environment without worrying about the implementation of it not being able to run the applications as they should be in a GPU environment is really critical for a lot of us. So this is, again, is one of the reasons why even for regular users, they should look at GPU training, GPU based servers. So the user experience is really, really key. If the user experience, as we mentioned, is not improved, then generally speaking, the deployment will not be accepted. As I mentioned earlier, just moving from Windows 7 to Windows 10 requires 30% more CPU usage. If you didn't change anything, again, without putting any of the hardware in or upgrading the servers or anything like that, you literally just migrated the OS. Essentially, the users will be on a worse experience than they were previously. What we're trying to do is actually improve the experience rather than decline it, and hence why we're looking at utilizing a GPU in here to take workload off the CPU to allow a higher user density, to give a better experience and more performance across the whole system. So improving density is really key for all of us. As we're expanding the business, we want to put more and more users onto these environments. Let's say we want to be able to spin up some extra users onto the VMs. If we didn't add a GPU in there, like I say, we would be adding extra users onto an already struggling CPU based server. what that would increase is also the requirements to the support teams, because they will probably be getting complaints that their applications are not running smoothly. So it's not just the hardware that's being tested here; it's actually the whole support of the business. The requirements for the technical teams, the support networks. What they will tend to try and find as well is that most people would want a better experience rather than just standing still or going backwards. So to run an environment, as a virtual environment, it can be relatively cheap, depending on what you're trying to do, how you're trying to set up the virtual environment, what applications you're requiring. But we have a lot of resources available, which we'll include on after the presentation. But it doesn't need to be a very expensive outlay for businesses. If you're running Grid in a virtual PC environment, it could be as low as $6 per month as a user experience. And the apps can be as low as $2 per month, depending on what you're looking for. The expectation would be that if you're running a NVIDIA Grid license for creatives, obviously it'll be higher, but it depends on every single user and what they require from the platforms. So with that, we need to look at what tools are required for yourselves to be able to be confident at having this kind of discussion into the market with your own clients. We have a lot of assets available. You need to be able to discuss whether your clients are looking for what we call perpetual license, and some basically whether they own the license or whether they're looking at a rental model, a subscription. Basically, we recommend that for businesses that are just starting to get going, maybe not familiar with VDI solutions, or businesses that need to be very, very flexible. A subscription model might work best for them. We need to ask the clients basically what they require. Are they looking at running the pro applications, the SolidWorks and the AutoCADs of this world, or are you just an office user? And also, are you looking to retrofit the solutions into this existing infrastructure? Are you looking to just add a Tesla or multiple Teslas and some licenses to your existing Dell or HP infrastructure, or are you looking to configure a brand new solution out of the box? You need to consider the middleware platforms, the Citrix and the VMwares as well, and what requirements people have. There's quite a lot to consider, but again, we can help talk this with yourselves and the end customers if required. We have a lot of documents that we can share as well, which tends to answer the majority of the initial queries from the end customers, and step-through guides. So again, all that can be delivered to yourself very easily. Things that you need to know is basically that the PMY and NVIDIA and CMS team are here to be able to support any requirements for you guys. So again, utilize this wherever we're needed. We are customer facing and customer facing if required. So there's no issues with that. We're here to support education as well, besides commercial businesses. So again, if you have any requirements around education deployments, which might be a little bit more of an interesting mixed workflow, because some of these might be running high performance compute as well as virtualized environments, then please let us know. And also there are the websites available with all the technical resource, which we'll share after this session. And that's it for me. Hopefully that is useful as an initial discussion around Windows 10 and what it means in the marketplace, why it's important for all of us, what is driving some of the factors to be aware of, and ultimately why users are requiring a change of platform for their servers. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Simon. So, Simon, we did have one question during that, which was someone's asked about some of the data you mentioned is talking about 2017. Was there a particular reason that's what is that because that's when Microsoft announced the EOL, or?
Correct. So 2017 was when a lot of businesses, particularly in the corporate environments, were starting to look at migrating. They were aware of the issue was coming down the tracks. A lot of large corporate businesses, the migration and the process is, maybe up to 2 years. So they were trying to get themselves at a stage at the end of 2019 before, we're the first couple of weeks of 2020, and now Windows 7 support has ended. A lot of these businesses needed to be, certified against the operating systems. A lot of them are actually being it's part of the standardization that they have to comply to government regulations. A lot of the financial businesses, for example, are regulated against this. So there's a lot of reasons why a lot of the globals, the financials, are on a global basis. These are huge corporate enterprises that decisions don't happen that quickly. A lot of them have been looking at this in development in the background before actually taking it into deployments. So smaller businesses tend to be a lot more dynamic. But yeah, it's been an issue that's been coming on the track that I think a lot of businesses haven't really reacted to until the tail end, but we've known about it for quite a long time.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. So thank you again, Simon, for that. So hopefully a lot of you found that helpful. As we mentioned, CMS are now working with PNY, so we're able to advise on all of this as well. We're able to do anything from the GPUs themselves. If you do have customers that are looking for upgrading their current infrastructure, we're also able to work with PNY on full new solutions, and then CMS are able to work on the storage, the networking, and the GPU servers as well, to be able to offer a full wraparound solution. So if you do have any questions, again, please go to your account managers, get in touch with us as well. Simon's always open. He's a wealth of knowledge as well. So thank you all very much for your time, and we'll hope to see you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.